Thank you guys for coming. My name is Greg, and I'm a visual artist from the state of Maine in the United States, but I developed most of my work in South America, especially while I was living in Brazil. I was there for about 5 years. Just a little bit of background. I greatly appreciate it if you guys threw up some questions at some point, because I don't have a formal presentation or anything like that. But I'm self-taught as an artist. I only started work as an artist maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. Before that, I got a degree in journalism, and then my master's degree was in European politics. I learned at a pretty early age that European politics probably wasn't the right field for me based on my personality. So I just kind of wandered around a little bit. I worked for a hospital in Boston in finance. And eventually one day I just said, screw it. I'm sick of looking at an Excel spreadsheet, and so I quit, and I moved to South America. I moved to Chile. I was there for about 8 months. I didn't know any Spanish at the time. And then after that, I picked up and I moved to Brazil, to Curitiba. I didn't know any Portuguese. But I had a great support system in place there, and it ended up being a really good thing for me. Now, Brazil was a country that was extremely difficult for me to adjust to. I had lived in 4 different countries before that, and I had quite a bit of experience in 2 other countries that I didn't live in. But Brazil was the only one that just completely confused me. I'd never been to a place before where the safe neighborhoods were actually the dangerous neighborhoods, where everybody lived behind these walls with barbed wire and electric fences, and if you didn't have barbed wire and electric fence on top of your wall, then you were too poor to have it. And very ironically, ironically I guess, the people who were the poorest are actually the people who, in my opinion, are the freest, the people with the most freedom in Brazil. The people with the most money are actually the most restricted. Brazil, has anyone been to Brazil? You have? How long were you there? Just travel, or?
Yeah, just travel for 10 days.
Where were you?
In Natal.
Natal. So you were in the Northeast. Okay. I don't. People say that the Northeast is significantly different from the South. In my experience, I didn't notice that much of a difference, but I was only in the Northeast for a little bit of time. Brazil is a country where every contrast exists all at the same time, and I mean that quite honestly. The friendliest people can be the most violent people. You have somebody living in a shack with a horse, as a vehicle, right next door to somebody living in a beautiful mansion with a Ferrari. The contrast and the extremes that exist there are just unimaginable. For the longest time, I had a very difficult time adjusting, and my art showed that. Of course, I was just starting out as an artist. I'd never taken an art class. I didn't have any mentors, anybody to teach me. I was learning everything based on books and YouTube videos and just playing around on canvas. For a long time during that period, I was really struggling to find out what my identity as an artist was going to be. And what I didn't know at that time, and I learned later, I was actually really struggling with my own identity, sort of facing expectations, maybe from my family or from my own culture in the United States. The culture in the U.S. is definitely not quit your job and move to South America. The culture there is, you grow up, you go to college, you get married, you get a job, you buy a house, you have kids, and you retire. And it doesn't matter what you really want to do in life. You suck it up and you just follow that formula. So I was having a hard time. I was running out of money. I was down to my last $50 or $100 or so at one point. And then something wonderful happened in terms of my intellectual capacity, I guess. There was a coup d'etat in Brazil. And I know it's quite interesting to say that that's something that's wonderful to happen, but as a journalist, I started noticing the massive, massive gap between what the media was reporting in Brazil and what was actually believed amongst the people in Brazil. You have to understand that Brazil has several national television stations, but one of them in particular, called Rede Globo, is probably the most powerful TV network in a democracy in the world. They have a 90% share. Everything that they do is massively influential on Brazilian culture, from children's programming to the famous novellas that they create to their national news. They push everything in a specific direction, and Brazil's identity really is sort of generated in a large part from what Rede Globo puts together for programming. However, in particular, their news is extremely anti-PT, PT being the Workers' Party. Back in 1990, Lula tried to run for president, 90 or 1991, it was the early 90s. Globo did not want him to run for president, and so they put up this other president, his last name was Collor, and Globo just supported this guy, Collor, vote for Collor, vote for Collor, and he got elected, and he was a disaster for Brazil. Inflation went so high that he ended up having to freeze everybody's bank accounts, which obviously caused everybody to freak out because nobody had access to their own money. So people started taking to the streets and marching, and they wanted to impeach President Collor. Globo never reported on these protests, not until very, very late in the game. In fact, 600,000 people marched in Sao Paulo one day in 91 or 92, and Globo actually reported that 600,000 people had showed up to celebrate Sao Paulo's birthday. Now, that is not, I'm not making that up, because Globo actually apologized for that, for doing that in 2009. They said, we're sorry, it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate, but it was a mistake, and we'll never do it again. Well, they did it again. A big corruption scandal erupted in Brazil called Lava-Jato. Basically, Petro Brazil was offering contracts to people who were friends of the politicians, and it was probably a $2 or $3 billion corruption scandal. And at the time, President Dilma, was the head of Petro Brazil. Now, Dilma never had any corruption charges brought against her. I want to be clear, I have no political game in this. I don't care about Dilma, she should be president or not. I'm not left, I'm not right. And politically in the United States, I'm very centrist. In fact, I think that Dilma probably was a pretty crappy president. It might not have been a very good leader of Petrobrazil, mostly because if you have $2 or $3 billion worth of corruption happening under you, either you're incompetent as a leader or you're just dumb if you know what's happening. But they never found any corruption against her specifically, but Globo really wanted to get rid of her. And there were some politicians who also really wanted to get rid of her. A couple of politicians in particular wanted to get rid of her, not because they didn't like her politics, but because they had corruption charges against them, and they wanted the spotlight lifted from them and put onto her. And so for about a year after she had won her second election, her second term, Globo went to work. The machine went to work with various politicians, and eventually she got impeached. Okay, and she was kicked out. The new president, Temer, has put corruption charges against him. Globo always said we have to get rid of Dilma in order to protect, this corruption. We have to have better politicians. We can't have corrupt politicians. When in place they put, someone who was significantly more corrupt than she was in place. Now, in watching the news, you would see that they would always show the protests that were in favor of impeachment. Okay? So the people who were in favor of getting rid of Dilma, Globo would always show these protests. In the city of Curitiba, which is a very right-wing city, there were lots of protests in favor of getting rid of Dilma. They would always show these 10, 15, 20,000 people would protest in the streets on a particular day. And I don't know if the reporting was necessarily accurate. It seemed as if it was to me, but they would never show the other protests, 10, 15, 20,000 people who were Dilma supporters. You almost never saw these shown on the news. And yet, on social media, there was just this loud argument about whether or not she should be impeached. Okay, so what basically what I'm saying is that in the mainstream media, it was one direction. It was get rid of Dilma. That was it. Whereas in social media and on the streets, in the bars and friends' houses and parties and stuff like that, the message was always, we should get rid of her, no, we shouldn't. Okay, there was always two sides. Whether or not the argument was always balanced is something completely different. But it started to occur to me that there was this massive, massive gap between what the media was showing and what people really understood to be true. Back when I was a journalist, my final project, I actually studied this. It was more of a complaint than it was a good essay about why the American media is so bad at educating Americans about international affairs. I guess I didn't know it at the time, but I guess the theme probably had stuck with me for quite a few years. And I said, okay, let's take this gap. This gap is obviously exists. Okay, I can see it. It's very clear to me. But let's go in a different direction. What would this gap look like if it were an actual place? So instead of a state of mind, this gap between the media's message and the audience's understanding of reality, what would that look like if it were a town? If it had schools, if it had people and worked there? And does it exist or does it not exist? And so I started creating works to try to fill in that gap. It was kind of a surreal experience for me, which is why I called it, well, we'll see here in a minute, which is why part of the reason why I use the word surrealism, because surrealism is this juxtaposition, is that irrational juxtaposition of sort of dreams and reality, right? Well, I was looking at this irrational juxtaposition of reality and reality. Okay, two different complete realities, both absolutely true, existing at the exact same time, which was the perfect definition of Brazil, in my opinion. But it also existed everywhere else in the world. And I started looking at it. It wasn't just the media. In the United States, we have commercials. And I guess here in Brazil, you can't name your competitor in your own commercials. You have two beer companies, and Superboc cannot talk about the other beer commercials in theirs. But in the United States, you can. It's direct competition. And the example that I love to give is Ford and Chevy. Ford and Chevy are fierce competitors with regards to trucks, pickup trucks. They're always talking about, we have the most powerful pickup truck, we have the best pickup truck, ours is better, blah, blah, blah. But not only do they do that, they go a step further and they say the competition sucks. And then they actually prove it, okay? So Chevy has this wonderful commercial that's going on right now. When I say wonderful, I'm really sarcastic. I think it's a terrible commercial. The first thing that they say when they come up is this: real people, not actors, which is complete baloney, okay? Because these people might be real people that they took off the street, but they have trained these people how to behave in a commercial. Otherwise, they wouldn't put them in the commercial, okay? And so what do? They have a Ford truck and they have a Chevy truck. And they have this big front-end loader machine with some cement blocks in it. And then they drop all the cement blocks into the Ford truck. And then they take out the cement blocks. And the Ford truck, all the real people, not actors, look and they, oh my God, look at all these dents. My God, there's a hole right there. It's just terrible, my God. And then they take the same front-end loader with some other cement blocks and they dump it in the Chevy truck. No holes. And they're all going, my God, there's no holes. I mean, just a few scratches. This is like, the best truck ever made. Come on. I mean, Chevy is saying this, is presenting this commercial with a straight face, saying, this is real. We expect you to believe this. This is the truth. But anybody watching this commercial knows that it's just complete, obvious. Am I allowed to swear? It's complete, obvious bullshit. Because they've completely staged it. And so when you think about this, I mean, how many people have seen a commercial, where there's some elements of truth to it, but it's not true, right? I mean, a shampoo commercial comes on and they say, this is the best shampoo for oily hair. And you sit there and you think, well, I have oily hair and that shampoo sucks. How can it be the best, I don't have any hair, so I don't know. I can't comment on that. But it goes even further than that. It's in public relations. I have no idea what public relations are like here in Brazil, but let's say an athlete in the United States goes off and does something wrong. Okay, he gets caught drunk driving. He gets arrested. There's a video that comes out and shows that he's drunk behind the wheel. It's a police video. It's used in court. It's open to the public and everything, but the public relations machine just gets behind it and just says, well, I mean, he's going through a tough time in his life right now. We should be sympathetic. You know, they put all this spin on, you know, how we're supposed to view this person. And maybe we should be sympathetic. I don't know. Maybe the guy's got an alcohol problem, and you know, this is sort of a wake-up call for him, and he really needs help. But at the same time, you know, do we really need to be bombarded with all these messages coming back and forth, and what are we really supposed to believe? So I created this thing, and I don't know if it's appropriately named, if it's going to take off, but I called it Novo-Surrealism. Okay? Why did I call it that? Well, this gap, the fact that it might exist or might not exist, that we can clearly imagine it, we don't know what it looks like, but the media completely ignores the fact that it's there. It's just completely surreal to me. It's just one of those things where you just think about it and you're like, how is this possible? And yet it is. Okay, there's no basis for it. There's nothing concrete about it. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create something concrete to sort of fill in the gap. Now, I specifically use the word novo for the Brazilian influence. Okay, when I say Novo-Surrealism, I'm not talking Neo-Surrealism. It doesn't translate as New Surrealism. New Surrealism or Neo-Surrealism is just an extension of the contemporary existence of Surrealism, which is the same thing as it was 70 or 80 years ago. So I don't know, maybe somebody better will come along who can answer this question better than me, and completely change the name and say, this Burns guy didn't know what he was talking about. But that's what I decided to choose because I wanted the Brazilian influence in that, and that surreal existence of that gap. This doesn't just exist in Brazil, though. It exists everywhere. The media is never unbiased, absolutely, positively never. Did anybody study journalism in school at all? Any kind of classes? No? I don't know what journalism theory is like here in Portugal. It's probably very similar.
We don't have journalism in Portugal.
In this weekend we are having the 4th convention that happens after 19 years of no convention about journalism in a cine theater in Lisbon. So it's the 4th conference after the revolution. So the journalism is complex.
But we don't have journalism. You study
You have journalism.
communication or politics?
No, you have.
You have journalism.
Yeah.
In Italy we don't.
In ESCS, Escola Superior de Comunicação Social, you have journalism.
I mean, you have post-graduation, you have internship with journalists, but you don't have a faculty that is called journalism.
We have a high superior degree, like o ISCTE, não sei o que, são institutos superiores.
It's communication and technology, not
No,
journalism.
journalism.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, that's okay. Well, in any case, just one of the most basic points, one of the first things that you learn in journalism school is this thing called the inverted pyramid. Okay? The inverted pyramid or the inverted triangle is essentially you put all the most important information at the top of the story. And then as you go down, it's less and less information. So the most important thing was such and such was driving his motorcycle, got into a car accident. Second most important thing, it was at midnight, the roads were not in good condition. Third most important thing, he was rushed to the hospital and is in critical condition. Fourth most important thing, he works for this company, and so on. And that sounds pretty objective, and that's actually one of the things that journalism schools, at least in the United States, teach, is that this is objective journalism writing. But it's not true, because with every piece of information that you include or not include, you're changing the perception of what actually happened that night. You know, by saying that he wasn't drunk, you know, or he was drunk, that changes, you know, what you think about the story. By talking about if the roads were slippery or not, you put that in or take that out, that changes your perception of what happened. If he was driving too fast or not, it changes. And so it really depends. If you put something in, it changes your perception. If you take that thing out, it changes your perception in the other direction. So there is no unbiased or unobjective journalism. And I decided to make this, you know, my next big project. So that's what I'm working on. Well, I just kind of came to home. We were going to have a video showing. I don't know if Zay wants to go and play it. It's 2 videos and just some of my work.
I can. Do you want it now?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I'm everywhere. I'm kind of like Godish. Maybe.
But if we can probably talk now if anybody has any questions. Am I speaking too fast? I'm nervous. So the wonderful thing about asking this question, what would this gap look like if it were a real place, is that I can do whatever the hell I want. Okay? I mean, I can create, stuff like this. I can create stuff that's a little bit more realistic. I can create people, buildings. I can create, the atmosphere. By the way, this is not what became the contrast on this. I must have done something really bad when I adjusted the Photoshop. It's something that you can explore absolutely everything. I have two specific things that I'm working on with this project right now. One of them is I want to map this town. So this gap, I'm imagining it's a town or a city. This is something that's more emotional. This is a cityscape. What does it feel like? Maybe this is somebody's bedroom or something like that. I want to map this town. Where is the church in this town? Is it on this road? Is the park on this road? Do people go to, do they go to work here? I'm looking to find out what this map might look like. The other thing that I want to do is I'm asking this question. What would the gap look like if it were an actual place? Okay, so I'm actually challenging people to answer that question. What do you think this gap would look like if it were a place? Okay? And what I will eventually want to do is I want to get people to upload whatever images they think the answer is, and get tens of thousands of images, and create this software that automatically takes all the images and picks one of them and creates a collage from all the images every time you refresh the page. So you get one image with all the thousands of them, and then you can dial in, maybe you can look at a specific image or something like that. One of the projects that I'm working on right now that is, I don't have any photos of it because it's just getting started. I've kind of taken a look at beer commercials in the various countries where I've lived, and there's two things that I've noticed that beer commercials are essentially the same in all countries that I've been to anyway. They're all nationalist and they're all nationalist. Mm-hmm. And whether we like it or not, commercials in general, the media in general, shapes our identity. It shapes who we are, who we think we are. It tries to attach us to brands, to products. So I'm creating this sculpture of a human being made out of beer cans. Okay? And the head is going to be only American beer cans. Only beer cans from the United States. The rest of the body is going to be beer cans from only other countries not from the United States. Okay? The purpose behind that, kind of going back to that paper that I told you about, my final project in school, was Americans have no idea what the rest of the world is like, even though in terms of ethnicity is what we call it, it's a civic country, it's not an ethnic country. Okay, people from Italy are ethnically Italian. People from Germany ethnically German. People from the United States are not ethnically American because it's such a melting pot of immigration. Americans have no idea. They know that. I mean, you sit down at your cubicle at work, and the guy next to you is from Poland. The girl over there is from China. I mean, it's perfectly normal. But Americans, especially white Americans, still think of the United States as white America. And beer commercials just hammered this home. I mean, Budweiser did this really crazy thing, I don't know, a year ago, where they changed their name to America. Like, it didn't say Budweiser anymore. It actually said America on the beer. That's the dumbest thing I think I've seen a company do, but it's indicative of the sort of nationalism that exists in this type of product. And so the idea behind this sculpture is to have this message of, this is what Americans think they are. They think they're American. They think they're Budweiser or Coors or, many of the microbrews that exist in the United States. But in reality, it's a mix of all the countries in the world. I imagine that this project's probably going to take about 5 or 6 years because I don't have a lot of money and I don't know how I'm going to fly to all these different countries to buy beer cans. I don't know. Maybe I'll get some people to send me beer cans or something like that in the mail, but even then I can see some risk. Somebody sending me something maybe I don't want. But these are the sorts of things that I'm working on. And, I hear a question.
And in terms of, I've lots of that about beer and so the idea that people, well, you have to drink all the beer that you use the can.
No, God, no.
I was going to say that the body as a holding place, this liminal thing between the media representation could be interesting.
It could be.
Your body has to hold the beer and then.
He's not a very strong drunk. I can tell.
Yeah, no. As much as I like beer, there's a lot of beers that I don't like, and I couldn't bring myself to swallow things that I don't like.
Of course, but conceptually, the way the body then plays into that relation, because I mentioned the paintings you have of the body versus the ones of more kind of space, and how we might occupy this space that is we're not represented. There's this media, and then there's what's actually happening, and this thing in between, and how we as people inhabit that, and the awareness of the not awareness, and how that translates into a physical space, and how that translates into the body. I don't know if you have anything to.
Yeah,
that's not really a question, is it? Sorry, but it's kind of like a thought.
Well, actually, it kind of brings me up to a point. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of my work is pretty reductive. Like I'll have a painting of a church and there'll be no background, or I'll have a painting of a person and there'll be nothing behind the person. That's reasonably intentional. I mean, I don't know what this gap looks like. I don't think anybody else knows what it looks like. And what I'm trying to say with that white space, or it doesn't even have to be white space, it could be colored space. Most of it's white though, is that there is sort of like, I wasn't really talking about awareness, so to speak, but there's a disconnect in sort of identity. But I guess awareness certainly fits into it, pretty well. What I've said in here tonight probably isn't blowing anybody away. I mean, you're probably sitting there going, yeah, well, I mean, that's obvious. Even I know that, what the media tells me isn't always to believe. But I don't think anybody's asked that question before. Like, how do we bridge that gap? I mean, no, actually, sorry. People have asked that question before, but it's mostly been asked from either activists in social movements or from journalists in the journalism school. It's never been sort of really addressing sort of the physicality of the gap. It's always been sort of like a state of mind or an idea. And so there's different theories and philosophies of bringing it together. And so part of the reason why I have a lot of blank space, for example, in a lot of my paintings is to address that. That sort of lack of understanding of what it really looks like. And who knows, maybe somebody in the future, will be able to identify what that blank space actually looks like.
It also seems to me kind of stripping away or stripping back.
Yeah.
As my positive.
Well, we have to. I mean, we have to strip away and reveal and pull back. The problem is we don't know how far to go.
But advertisement is exactly that, to take the rubble out and just leave what consumers want. So it's almost also this reduction. No, it's interesting because the tools that we can use against or to better this thing is the same tools that it's used to worsen it. Like you said, Budweiser put America, and it makes no sense. Okay, you as an American doesn't make no sense. For me as a Portuguese, it doesn't make any sense. But Make America Great Again won. So Budweiser also won. You know, like in this corporation that puts something on the top, it won. Like Budweiser won, changing from Budweiser to American. So it's the same tools that we use are the same tools used by the gap that you're trying to fill up. And the second thing that I want to say is sociology works a lot with this. To know that a gap exists, first you need to see a gap. So sociology, as a really new science, one of the young siblings of philosophy, is creating this gap or awareing it. So it was also not a question, but a shared. I don't know.
Well, I didn't look at it from a sociology perspective for sure. I definitely looked at it from a journalism perspective in the beginning, and just extended it to mass media. I don't doubt for a second that there are academics out there in the various liberal arts fields studying this. I mean, this has a lot to do with identity, in my opinion, not just communication, but identity, citizenship, nationalism. You know, so I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people out there who are studying this. I don't know. I'd be curious. I mean, if there's any sociologists out there who sort of know what this gap looks like, maybe when the work is done.
In theoretical terms, it exists explanations for it because, and I'm sharing this with you, as you know, my first major was advertisement, the devil's work. So I know what you're talking about and this gap and this power gap, like with private and public, and so sociology works a lot with this and tries to find this gap in a theoretical way or word.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Adam Carter's documentary?
I'm not. No.
Okay, it's this guy that is on this long-lasting crusade in this spot against what he calls the simplification of the politicians use to address world and the complex matters, oversimplification, and his last documentary, hyper-normalization, is this relation between Trump well, he wasn't elected yet, but the whole rise of Trumpism with this new way of making politics, like Vladimir Putin does in Russia, in a sense that this news noise that spread, like Donald Trump campaign was like saying all of these dumb things in order to make him on the front of every newspaper and
sound bites,
and nice in order to confuse and at the same time oversimplify a lot of things, and I think it also recalls well, I can see a relation in that with this beyond citizen Kane idea of the global.
I saw that video.
Yeah.
You seen that documentary?
I
That's an amazing documentary. Just to kind of, you should all Google it. It's called Beyond Citizen Kane. And it's a documentary that a British TV station did on global, the rise of global, and sort of the corruption that's involved with it. And just to kind of finish, so I'll let you go back to it real quick. That video was banned in Brazil for a really long time. Global actually got it so that it could not be disseminated in Brazil. So it kind of tells you the power that they have.
On YouTube already?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah.
No, but this ban from global was already internet
Well, it was made in the 1990s, so it was definitely before YouTube.
Ah, okay.
But it's on YouTube. It's in Portuguese and in English. The original is in English, but they do. It's in both languages on there. Beyond Citizen Kane. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm recommending you to look for Adam Curtis documentaries, but my question is if there is this tendency to go the whole world to go in this direction, do you what is your role as an artist, or what do you want to do? Do you see it as kind of activism, and if so, in what way do you want to create awareness, or I'm not sure if your website idea can be perceived as using more or less same tools to fight against. I'm not sure. Just wondering.
You know, it's a good question. I definitely consider myself an activist in this regard. I've been a journalist for a long time. I've only been an artist for a few years. I care more about the art than I do about the journalism, but maybe not. I don't know. It's something that I still need to decide, or at least try to figure out. I think my role is to try, my hope is to get the audience to dictate reality to the media. So this website, the whole idea is to start the process of the general audience dictating the message. Now I know we had like the Twitter revolution in Iran, and Facebook and Twitter are generating significantly more news, or at least they are the source of more news than what the traditional mainstream media is used to in the past. So this is really sort of already happening, but it's still the mainstream media that disseminates the information in the end. And my hope is that with this website is to be able to get people to start thinking like, hey, I can take control of what reality actually is, which I understand is a completely dangerous proposition.
That's like social media.
Kind of, but social media is really, it's not collective. You have to go find it. If you want to find out what is really happening, in the middle of a city that's under siege, for example, you have to follow 300 people on Twitter, and you have to actually find them and actively follow them. My hope is not necessarily the website. The goal of the website is not necessarily to create news. It's to create an environment of understanding that we, as a general public, need to take back, or at least be critical, hold the media accountable for biased information. Okay, it's just more of a statement saying I'm here than it is sort of creating like a new wave philosophy of thinking or anything like that. I look at it something as sort of like a trigger to education, just to get people to think about it more. There's a great TV show in Boston. It's on public television. It's called Greater Boston, and it's on 5 nights a week. And for 4 of the nights, it just talks about cultural and new stuff in Boston. But on Friday nights, they have a TV show. It's a version called Beat the Press, and it's a bunch of journalism academics who get together and they talk about news stories that are where the news made more news than what they reported. So the method of their reporting was actually just as important as actually as the event that actually happened. It's a wonderful show. I absolutely love watching it. I think we need to have like a national show on this, like in the United States, for example, bipartisan, or without politics. I guess it's probably impossible to remove politics from the equation. But I would love to have something like that sort of develop as a result. Where it's a real world practical answer to everybody just kind of believing. I don't. How does it work here in Portugal? Like in the United States, we have pretty much centrist media, and then we have left wing and we have right wing. And everybody knows who the right wing is, and everyone who knows who the left wing is, especially the people from the opposite end. If you pay attention to the right wing media, you tend to not know that your media is right wing. But is it like that here in Brazil too? Do you have
in Portugal, we cannot talk about this because there are only 2 or 3 newspapers and that take all the power, so we should not talk about this. And I think that's the answer.
Are they in the room?
Especially in live streaming.
Yeah,
No,
I think
I'm
that's the
joking.
answer. No.
Is it still a dictatorship?
No. It's a small Galvaz village.
Okay.
It's the most close.
Yeah, and
about.
actually, okay, there is this very strong background on the work of art, but I think there are 2 points in your research that might not have blow up, but that for me are so important, that are connecting one is this archive of image that you're willing to build on this idea of an imaginary city that represents the gap between the media and the reality. And the other one is this CAN project, which I think both of them involve a lot of issue of how to bring it out. Like when we were speaking about the archive of the media, one of the first problem that sorts out was about, okay, I will build this website, I will ask everyone to send me an image about this abstract idea, because it's very abstract, and we were like worried about, okay, but that might be a man that is a maniac and send pedophile image, or somebody being cutting off, or with the CAN beer you suggest the problem of they might send me beer, but they might use me as a channel to sell drugs or illegal arms, and there are a lot of issue of how to get it sorted out, which are interesting for me. They are very interesting. Like, you can be the censor guy that received all this archive and decide where to put. You can reduce the call to just to artists, to maybe try to find, I don't know, I want you to speak me about this project if you can, if you don't mind.
Well, the answer to getting the cans is actually quite simple. Either meet a really rich person who wants to help me with this, or get a grant. And then I can just go and travel and get the cans myself. But I think for the next year anyway, it's going to take me a little bit of time to build the head. So I think I'll probably have to start coming up with some better solutions, probably in a year. I don't really have a good answer to that. I'm starting to.
Because can I just open?
Sure,
because I remember of a work. Right now I cannot figure out the name of the artist, but I thought it was a very beautiful work. It happens in Berlin, in the Kasberei, and this French artist that I cannot recall the name built a ziggurat of beers. And to bring this beer was from Turkey, because there were some contests at the period in a politic way. He really sent tracks from Turkey to Berlin to bring this beer. And in the end, you have all the public sitting on this huge structure consuming the beer.
Drinking,
Yeah.
Drinking it.
And in the end, it was this confusion, but he remained with a lot of material to work with, and also this, of course, this ziggurat getting without a form and get confused was beautiful. And so I think how you get the cans, it might also involve a community somehow. Maybe not sending things, but maybe organize an event in each country you work for. I don't know. There are many.
Sort of like happenings.
Yeah, we are voluntary.
Okay.
But a lot of questions.
Maybe I'll invite everybody to come visit for a week and just drink. but you have to bring beer from whatever country you live in. With regards to the other one, yeah, we were having this conversation. I don't necessarily have an answer for that. I think, in the end, we kind of came to the point where, well, am I a curator or an artist with regards to the website? Of course, I don't want pedophilia or somebody getting killed, uploaded, and then that image being reproduced, as a collage of all the other images, especially when you might have, I don't know, school kids, kids 6, 7, 8 years old sending their crayon drawings to the project as well. There's a limit, but what is that limit? I mean, pedophilia is a pretty terrible thing. Does it exist? Yeah. Murder is a pretty terrible thing, but it exists. I mean, it is in our real world. I'm not necessarily trying to create a utopia here. It's not a goal of mine. And I guess maybe in some ways it'd be nice if I could, but I'm not really sure, if I can avoid that. Well, okay. The simplest answer is, with regards to law, I don't want to go to jail. So I guess I'm going to have to curate something. So people aren't going to be able to submit certain images because, I want to follow the law. But with regards to censorship, man, that's a touchy subject. Because as soon as you start censoring, as soon as I start censoring as an artist, or even as a curator, I'm no different from the media. I mean, I'm the same, the exact same thing. In fact, I might even be the same thing now, because I'm giving this artist talk. This is an obvious flaw in the project, but it's a very divisive one. It's like the two definitions of liberty. You either have everybody's equal, or everybody starts, or everybody has equal opportunity. You can't have the two. They don't come together. And so I either have censorship or I don't, and I have to stand by it.
And as an artist, it's interesting to be pointing to that.
Yeah.
And through process, we're thinking about how that. Because then, when you're talking about utopia, because a space that exists or doesn't, I'm kind of seeing it quite conceptually as a sort of territory. And I think the Lisbon Terror talk quite a lot about this sort of territorialization of this space that's quite liminal, let's say, that exists and doesn't exist. But it's not a utopia, is it? It's not something we actually want to exist. Or maybe we do. We want something separate from media and representation, like it's, or reality, and it's kind of, I don't know how you sort of envisage these spaces through your, maybe talking about your colour.
I work based, my palette in particular, I stick with bold colors. Blending for me, technically, I didn't go to art school, so I never really learned how to blend colors together. But I guess I just really enjoy just putting one color on top of the other. I like the way it looks. I like the way that it all stands out. But I started out as a painter because I really enjoy it. I have some video photography, and I'm going into sculpture now. I have some ideas for installation work as well. I think that's the beauty of this, is that the answer to that question, what does this gap look like? If it were a real place, what would this gap look like? The answer to that can be anything. Literally, it could be anything. You could have 50 different artists all answering the same question and submitting it for an exhibit. And it would be completely different. Everything would just be completely different. But yet, as I was telling Gemma and Zay when we first met, if you walked into that exhibit, you would be able to interpret the same thing from everything. I think that's my theory, is that if you ask that one question, even if you had completely different pieces of art, you would still be able to interpret everything under that question. It's an interesting thing for me to go towards, to move towards. In some ways, it's kind of exciting because I'm not sure I'm ever going to get an answer, so it means I can just keep working and working and working, and I can just keep pushing forward. I'd like to get some people who actually create art alongside of it, so I can get some sort of something to hold on to. Right now, I'm kind of floating in the air. It's just me, and I'd like it, if somebody else kind of took this question and started, asking the same question and trying to answer it in the same way, and just so we can put our two works together, just so we can see what's the difference. I don't know. Did I answer it? Or I feel like I missed something from what you said. No, I forgot to answer.
No, it's more an explanation. I think I wasn't intending to ask the kind of the first question that requires an answer. I'm just really interested in the space and whether in this idea of pointing towards a space that exists, or this gap between representation, or sorry, I keep saying represent, I mean reality. I might represent this gap between reality and the media. Whether you want to, through this process, get rid of this space, or whether through this process we want to glorify this space, or what we want to do with this. And so I suppose, so what you're saying is really interesting, but I don't think I'm not sure there's a particular answer, because I think it's about the process of trying to reveal it and trying to give a language to this space that then leads us now.
And I think I want to clarify too that I don't look at it as between reality and the media. I look at it between the audience's reality and the media's reality. It's really two different realities. Because what the media says is true. It is.
Yeah.
It's just not entirely true. Okay, and what we believe is true. It's just not entirely true. The media cannot possibly inform us of everything, and we cannot possibly be informed of everything ourselves, which kind of creates this sort of like exploding head, moment where you sit there and go, well, what the hell do I believe?
Yes.
And the answer is, well, nothing. I mean, or whatever you choose to believe, whatever you want, as long as you can live with those consequences. I've just decided to, take this place, and I can visualize it too. I mean, I've already started drawing maps in my head, what this place might look like.
But the space is not the solution.
Yeah, no, you're right. No. No, space is not. It's just it's a vehicle.
Yeah.
It's only a vehicle. Only a vehicle.
Mm.
Exactly.
You're hoping to make that gap smaller?
I hope so.
Is that what you intend?
I hope that in the future, yes, that the gap becomes smaller because the audience becomes more educated on how to hold the media accountable.
So don't the media have to be representative and acknowledge that? I don't know, they acknowledge that gap.
Yeah, they have to acknowledge the gap. Absolutely. But the only way they're ever going to acknowledge the gap is if the audience stands up and says it's there.
But there is something I feel, I don't know if you agree, but for me it would be quite, I would not say quite easy, but it would be possible to describe this gap between the media and the reality in a text.
Oh,
but
sure.
if I imagine a seat in this gap, it's a kind of abstraction again, there is not bringing maybe it's not bringing a so strong light on our reality, because we are all in abstraction. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I mean, this could be. I mean, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be images. It doesn't have to be, visual arts. I suppose it could be performing or even, literature as well.
I wanted to know if there is this multimedia idea in your project.
Yeah, no, it's in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I necessarily have the capacity right now to do everything. I'm not going to dance, right? I'm not a dancer. I did do some flamenco
We would
classes.
love to.
Live stream flamenco.
But my hope is that somebody stands up and says, "Okay, I'm going to take that challenge. I accept your challenge, Greg, and I'm going to do whatever I want, based on this question, this challenge that you presented." And if he or she writes something, a book.
Yeah, because I think you have the most difficult challenge in the question you're putting to the others, because you are a painter, and I think painting and abstraction at this level, it's a quite impossible thing, which I love. I see you as a Don Quixote going against the wind with this very strong image.
Yeah.
But I think with other medias it would be more quickly and more reality connecting somehow. I don't know how to express this quite well, but I hope you're getting.
Well, I used to be a writer, and I just learned when I started painting. I learned that I hated the rewriting process. I absolutely hate the rewriting process, but I love the repainting process. I don't know if I like the resculpting process just yet. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the sculpture, you know, if somebody wants to go in that direction with it, I'm happy. I'm all for it. But I think the point is that whenever you create something, it has to be identified as going in this direction. Okay? As soon as you stop identifying it doesn't exist. It's something else. You know? I had a couple of drawings up here. I don't know, maybe they were cubist or minimalist, or or maybe there's a painting in here that's just abstract expressionist or something like that. And I could throw them off in that direction if I want to, but I'm deciding not to. I'm intentionally deciding not to. I'm intentionally bringing them in this way and identifying them as such. And I think it's the only way you can possibly answer the question. It's the only way that you can get to get into this issue is by specifically
which almost brings us to a kind of interpretation process.
Oh yeah, it's totally
which I love. I mean, we are translating things all the time. We are transforming them as artists, and the focus you have on the project is the main goal, and then hoping that the message comes through.
Yeah. I'm doing the best that I can under my capabilities and trying to improve. Think about it from different perspectives and do different things. That's why I've gone into video. That's why I've gone into photography and sculpture to try to attack it from different angles. And that's why I also said earlier that the great thing about this is you can do whatever the hell you want. Because nobody's telling you, it has to be, 3 red squares with a blue circle, and it has to be done so with, a pine tree paintbrush or something like that. I mean, you create this any way that you want, as long as you're answering the question, at least trying to.
I'm not sure I do.
What?
I really agree with everything. I think it's interesting to point towards this mix between something that's very fluid and something that's more static. Different representations of what we perceive to be this gap. But I'm not sure it's a question that we can answer. I think I feel like we can point towards it and point towards the possible existence through different ways of representation as a distance and a gap that we maybe want to close, or we want to move through, or we want to in some way engage with. But I don't know. I'm a linguist, and I'm getting syntactically maybe a little bit focused on this idea of it being a question that we can answer rather than something we can point towards. I think there's a big difference between the two. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I use the question as a starting point.
Yeah.
And then from there we have a new interpretation.
But it's interesting because if you ask a question, you're naturally wanting to find an answer, and I'm not sure, because if you've got this gap, maybe there's an answer, we're trying to work towards this third way, some kind of new media that is neither like the old, because that old media system doesn't work. And social media, as we know from the elections, particularly I'm thinking about Brexit and Trump, social media told us one thing, and what actually happened was totally different, and there's a massive gap to do with communication. And so what you're doing is really exciting with opening up forms of channels of communication. But I'm not sure, I'm kind of wondering whether we know what the answer is, and whether it is trying to create something new.
Well, I want to be clear that I don't think that there necessarily is an answer. But that shouldn't stop us from trying.
No, of course not. But then I think it also is interesting if we think we're not sure that there is an answer. How do we then frame the question? I'm not saying I'm not saying that this is the wrong question. I'm just I'm interested in how we create a question that we don't know the answer to, and how we explore that through different forms of representation. Like it's massive. Good luck.
Well, my real hope and desire in all of this is that in 30 years from now, university philosophy professors are talking about me as someone who created this whole thing, and no, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I don't know if there's an answer. I don't know if we can get to it, but I'm trying to answer it in that way.
Yeah.
I'm starting with that question. That's where I'm going.
I hope I'm not sounding too critical. I'm just
No,
I'm
no.
really, really interested.
No.
Like,
I agree with what you're saying, and I think it's exciting to hear that different interpretation of it, going in a different direction.
Okay, let's go naked and have a street team.
All right. We'll make this style.
Thank you, Aggie. It was okay, no? No more questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Do you have a light? Say,
Yes.
can you turn on lights? I can't see anymore. You're all
Yes.
gone.